What's going on, YouTube? I am back. Time to re-up because I got a lot of things I want to get off my chest, and I gotta be honest with you guys. Because let's just dive right into it. I'm starting to think that James Harden might be better and greater than Dwayne Wade. Please don't boo me already. Don't throw shit at me. Do not dislike already. Give me a chance. Let me explain. As you guys know, I have always been on the side that Dwayne Wade is greater than James Harden. But at some point, we do need to have a conversation about how great James Harden is and if that gap between those two really doesn't exist anymore. Because I'm looking at the shit that Harden has been able to get off this year and over the last couple of seasons and really saying to myself, at some point, when does the offensive gap start to matter when the longevity is so crazy in Harden's favor? To give a little backstory, when you look at this Clippers team right now, they are going through it all across the board. They're having to rely on old ass motherfuckers to play some major minutes like Kawhi Leonard, who barely plays, obviously. Bradley Beal, who's out for the season with a hip injury. That might be the end of his career for all we know. Brook Lopez, who... and the only one they can really rely on, James Harden, who at 36 years of age is still producing at an elite level, having one of his better seasons. So far, he's averaging 26, 9, and 6 and shooting 38% from 3 on 9 to 10 attempts from behind the arc. He's got a true shooting percentage this season of 63%, which since he's been an all-star caliber player, that would be the second highest percentage of his career. Harden this year has been amazing, finding guys in so many different ways, whether out of the pick and roll, in transition, half-court sets. I mean, he's really doing it all as the offensive hub, and I'm not going to dismiss the other contributions. When Kawhi has played, he's been great. Zubac has been really good for them and picked up where he left off last season. But let's not be oblivious to the obvious truth here. The Clippers' pulse starts and ends with James Harden. And even though Kawhi, when he's available, is their number one guy, they look to him, he's the best player. But if we're being honest, over the course of the season, playoffs included, Harden is the most important player on this roster. And I know we live in an era where guys like LeBron and Tom Brady have made longevity kind of look like a whatever thing these days, but it is unprecedented for somebody at 36 years old to be this good as an offensive player, as a guard. Players like Harden and Curry are really breaking the mold, and we really need to appreciate what we're seeing from those two, but it seems like more of the appreciation goes towards Curry and not James Harden. And trust me, I'm well aware of my past of shitting on James Harden and coming through when he doesn't come through in the clutch, because I will never sit there and act like James Harden does not have real criticisms of his career and moments that we need to talk about. But I do feel like we've talked about those moments so much that a lot of people gloss over the idea that he's still a great player. Harden throughout his career has cemented himself as being an all-time great scorer and playmaker. That's something that very few players in NBA history have the right to say. This is a man that can go out there and literally give you 40 any given night in his prime, while also can go out there and can give you like 20 and 20 on any given night. As an offensive player, he's in the conversation of top 5, at bare minimum top 10. Even at this stage in his career, he's one of the best ISO scorers in the game while attracting so much attention from opposing defenses. I mean, Harden's 36 and doesn't have the burst and off the dribble impact that he did back in the day, but his handle is still crisp. He gets to the free throw line fairly consistently, even higher than he did last year. And sure, he doesn't get to the rim at the rate that he used to, but he's still efficient with his finishes at the rim this year so far. But what's really driving him is the three-point shot above that break. He's still knocking those down like butter, like clockwork, every single fucking time. Harden is the pure testament. And Steph Curry too, I'll give him credit because he's competing at a high level at this age, but those two are the exact testament that when the athleticism takes a dip, the skill can keep you competing at a high level even later on in your career. And now that he's not the athlete that he used to be, I mean, hell, when's the last time that motherfucker even caught a body at the rim? It's been a long time since then. I can't even remember. Harden has found a way to still be an all-NBA player at this stage, 36 years old. That's insanely impressive. And I say all that to say that when we're looking at him compared to other players in NBA history, at some point, when does the longevity matter more than the fact that, sure, he doesn't have a championship? Because when I look at somebody like Dwayne Wade, who Harden is often compared to all the time online, I love Wade. If you want to say Wade's better in his prime, in his peak, than James Harden was in his prime and peak, I definitely think that's a fair conversation to have. The defensive gap is obvious, and the playoff performances clearly go in Dwayne Wade's favor. But if we're talking about the totality of their careers and quote-unquote greatness, people throw out those championships there, and I think it's very important to do so. I do think championships do matter, but people cannot deny the obvious about James Harden, which is the fact that as an individual player, he could have been better than Dwayne Wade. I don't think that's a crazy take to have. Offensively, he obviously clears Dwayne Wade as a scorer, as a playmaker. Wade's a better post scorer and mid-range shooter, and also you could argue a better finisher too. I'll give him that. But we can't overlook how deadly Harden was as a three-point shooter, an isolation scorer, and a playmaker, passer, decision maker in ways that Wade, he just never really honed in on. Harden was able to go out there with Mike D'Antoni and role players consistently. It didn't matter if he had Chris Paul. It didn't matter if he had Russell Westbrook. He could go out there with Trevor Ariza, Eric Gordon, Capella, Nene, whoever. As long as you just gave him some adequate role players who could shoot threes and get some rebounds, he was going to guarantee you a 50-win season with Mike D'Antoni and a top 5 to 10 offense. And then when he finally got someone like a CP3 that could alleviate those offensive responsibilities, let's be real. Not only did they have one of the greatest offenses of all time win 67 games, which a lot of people just overlook. That Rockets team is one of the greatest teams, arguably the greatest team to never win a championship. They won 67 games. We're first in the Western Conference. And if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, let's be honest here, there's a legitimate chance that they win the championship that year. I'm just saying, when we're having these conversations, we have to recognize that winning a championship, there is luck that comes into play. And I'm not here to question any of Dwayne Wade's championships or how valid they are, but we can't sit there and act like Dwayne Wade was the exact same player in 2013 and 2012 when he won those championships with the Miami Heat Big Three. Hell, in the 2013 playoffs, Dwayne Wade was averaging like 15 points a game throughout the entire postseason. He wasn't the same player, obviously, due to injuries. LeBron was obviously the best player on those Miami Heat teams, and you can't tell me that if you swap Dwayne Wade with James Harden, it don't matter what age we're talking about from prime James Harden, those Heat teams are still winning the championship. If not, maybe even in more dominant fashion, as James Harden aged a lot better than Dwayne Wade did. Harden's ability to transition from being the best scorer in the NBA to arguably its best playmaker, which has led to him still now being one of the 20 best players in the NBA at 37 years old, has to be something that we look at and say, man, in this conversation, it's a lot closer than we think. Because as individual players, you can't tell me that Dwayne Wade clears James Harden. Neither clears the other. There are arguments for both. And then when you look at the longevity, it's clearly in favor of James Harden, and I'm not even really knocking Dwayne Wade for that because injuries suck. But the fact of the matter is, it does go in James Harden's favor because of it. So at some point, we gotta look at James Harden's career and say, this is a clear situation of ring bias going against James Harden. Harden has done pretty much everything outside of win a championship. I mean, hell, he even came close to winning a championship in OKC as a sixth man. He's proven his ability to play in multiple different roles, whether as a first option in Houston, as a second or third option in Brooklyn, as a playmaker as he's shown since he left Houston. He can play with bigs like he showed doing so with Dwight Howard and now with Zubac. He can play with guards like he did with Kyrie and Chris Paul. He can play with the wings like he's done with Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard. Harden is one of the best and versatile offensive players of all time, and he's proven it for almost a decade and a half. At some point, we have to admit that ring culture may not be the answer to every single solution, and Harden's career is the perfect example why.